My name is Amanda Lewis, and I have several titles. I'm actually the director of the Institute for Research on Race and Public Policy here at UIC, and I'm also a distinguished professor of Black Studies and Sociology. We collaborate with a wide range of community organizations, and when I say collaborate, I mean we are both doing work that serves those organizations. So we do work where folks bring research questions and agendas to us and ask for our help in pursuing them. We also do work where those groups shape the work we're doing. So for instance, we have a whole series of reports we've been doing on the state of racial justice in Chicago. And we have brought together a large number of community groups for each of those reports to help us think through what are the key questions in different communities, what are we missing, what needs to be included. They've shaped and participated in the research for those reports. They've written and contributed expert commentaries for the reports. They've worked with us on public presentations and panels for those kinds of things. So we have also done work writing about and thinking about what it means to approach the questions about civic engagement with a racial equity lens. So we've done work, for instance, with the Chicago Community Trust, assessing how we understand levels of community engagement around the city of Chicago and thinking through a more complicated and way of defining civic engagement. So, historically, a lot of groups have thought about civic engagement as things like voting and volunteering, but we've been really interested in understanding all the different ways that folks are informally engaged in civic engagement, things like block parties, all the things they do with their communities, but also in other kinds of engagement, things like movement building, things like protest work, but other work that speaks to their vision of the city and what the city needs to be doing, but maybe not in ways that are the ones that we traditionally measure. So I think we love being part of the College of Urban Planning and Public Affairs, in part because of the deep commitment of various units that we also collaborate with, like IPCE, like Great Cities, and other units in the college. So even though we have a university-wide mission, we are administratively housed here and do a ton of collaborating with other units that are sort of in line with that urban mission. That's a really interesting question. I don't think of policy and passion necessarily together very often, but I would say the things that I think are exciting, that get me intellectually curious, that I lean into include, in my own research and scholarship historically, I have been deeply interested in thinking about how to create schools that help all young people thrive. And for me, that has involved really trying to understand how schools shape young people's understandings about themselves and others, how they help young people to become critical and engaged citizens of the world, and why it is that often historically schools have seemed to contradict their own values. So we often think of schools as institutions that advance racial equity in various ways, but that's not historically what they've often done. So I'm always been engaged in about that tension. In terms of my work at the Institute, we are really interested in thinking about policy in the broadest possible way. So we think of policy as both anything that really speaks to what's going on in the world and what we should be doing about it. But we also think about policy, I would say vertically, like in a lot of the work we do with the state and other kinds of public entities, as not just legislation or the formal rulemaking, but all the ways that rules get implemented, understood, all the practices within organizations, within agencies, and that sort of thing that really impact how the rules, the legislation, the formal stuff gets implemented. So we've been really interested in the work we've been doing with the state and helping departments and agencies think about how to advance their own goals around serving all residents of the state of Illinois in an equitable and inclusive way. I have many favorite things about being the director of the Institute. I love the people I work with. We have an amazing team, ranging from folks who are doing amazing research to the folks that are helping to build community and to run all of our intellectual events on campus. We do a lot of collaborating across projects, and so that makes it great to come to work. I also love the work we do to build a more inclusive and welcoming community across campus, and the work that we do to support scholars who are honestly doing really exciting and cutting edge and boundary pushing work on questions of race and policy, and thinking deeply about how to advance racial justice in lots of different ways. So that is a great part of my job. I also love working at UIC. I like the community. I like the values of the institution. I appreciate being part of a unit that was important to me when I was an assistant professor a long time ago, and that helps to advance the university's mission of being not just a part of Chicago, but really trying to be connected to communities and to not just advance understanding about the city and the communities that we're embedded in, but also increase access and opportunity across the city and the state. So for me, it's been a really wonderful experience, challenging a lot of the time, but I learn new things every day and get to plan and strategize and think and dream about how to help create the, not just the university that we all want and need, but the kind of city and community. That's what I love walking along the lake front. I do it almost every day. Maybe not in the dead of winter, but that's probably my favorite thing to do. Although I also love all of the summer festivals and music shows and films in the park, all that sort of thing. It's a great city. Just with a little bit of green and hot.